Hi, I'm Caroline, and I've created a lot of things, but mostly I've created a life I love. Join me on my journey as a podcaster, business owner, and mom as I try to create all the things. Welcome to the Caroline Creates podcast. Hey everyone, happy October. I cannot believe that it is October already. There's a part of me that wants to panic. And then there's a part of me that's excited because it's fall and it's my first fall/winter in Colorado, and I'm super excited to get to experience it, but I'm definitely freaking out a little bit about the end of the year. I feel like, and I'm sure many of you feel like this, you get to October and all of a sudden you start remembering all the things that you wanted to do this year, all the things that you wanted to accomplish. And you can feel a little bit like a failure, or a little bit like, oh man, I would have wasted a year. And of course, it's not a wasted year at all. We had a big year, my family and I did, and we moved to Colorado. My husband had surgery. I mean, it has literally just been like one thing after the other this year. And I think sometimes it's really easy to kind of get caught up in the what ifs, woulda, coulda, shoulda things instead of looking back and going, oh, look at all the things I did do. So I'm definitely trying this month to take the time to kind of reflect in a positive way and be thankful for what I have done. But all of that to say, I wanted today to talk about something that I think is really, really important. And not just in podcasting, but in life. Of course, I'm going to redirect this back to podcasting, but I want to talk about the fact that we are really good at putting things off. Here we are, it's October. Maybe you've started your podcast, maybe you haven't started your podcast. Maybe you want to start a podcast, but you don't know where to start, or maybe your podcast needs some tweaks and some changes. And you're saying to yourself, you know what? I'll get to it next year. I'll start working on it next year. And I want to talk about that for a second. There is no reason to wait till next year to start doing what you want to do today. And that definitely includes podcasting. I think it is especially easy to put things off that are big and scary or hard. And definitely podcasting kind of falls into that category. Unless you are incredibly technically savvy or you have Googled to the ends of the internet, you probably don't know how to start or launch a podcast, right? And so you just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and saying, one day I'll do that. One day I'll start a podcast. And then next thing you know, the year has passed. And I kind of feel like that's where we are right now. It's October. And I know a lot of people who either took a break from their podcast or haven't started their podcast yet. And now, we're getting into the busy season of the holidays, right? So trying to do that now would just be ridiculous, right? Trying to launch a podcast this month would be crazy pants. Of course you can still do it, but you don't necessarily have to do all of it right now, but you can start. You can start working on the things that you want to accomplish next year. You can start working on them now. So let's kind of break that down. How can we start working on some things that maybe we want to work on next year? Well, the first thing I want you to do is come up with a plan. I was never much one for planning. At all. I never planned anything. I just lived, by the seat of my pants. I made business decisions on the fly. I never planned. And I definitely now, looking back, see how that was an error. For our podcast, Creative Biz Rebellion, we are already planning into next year. We have all of next year planned as far as what we want, the higher level things that we want to accomplish next year. But we are also working on content for next year already. Not some of it we've recorded, yes, but a lot of it is just getting it on the schedule, getting it on the books, having a plan in place. That way, when January 1st rolls around, we're already moving into something else and implementing things that we wanted to work on. As far as my business goes, I'm kind of rounding out the year and I haven't necessarily planned, but I am starting to think about what next year marketing wise is going to look like. What am I going to talk about in January? What am I going to talk about in February? Those kinds of things. I have planned, to end this podcast for season 1 pretty soon. And then I will begin to plan season 2. So if you're thinking about launching a podcast, you can start planning now. When would be an ideal time to launch? How many episodes do you want to have when you launch? Go ahead and start working on those now. Start recording, start working through the checklist, which I will include a link to in the show notes. Start figuring out your why, your mission, what the point of your podcast is, what your ultimate goals are with the podcast. Start planning. That way you can start acting on the plan. The other thing I really encourage people, and I just think this is so important, every week you should be doing something that is moving your business forward. Every week you should be doing something that is encouraging growth, either revenue wise or honestly for you yourself to grow, right? So even though you may not be executing your big massive plans and goals, I want you to find some baby step, some little something that you can start working on now. And with a podcast, that could be getting all the elements together. That could be working on, what your iTunes is going to look like, what you need for your feed. That could be working on your cover art. Just get your cover art done. At least it's one thing that you can check off the list, one actionable item that is moving you forward. I'm not saying that tomorrow you have to launch your podcast. I'm saying find one little thing that you can start with today. So I have a little confession to make. I'm actually recording this in 2 different times, and I'm using a pretty terrible microphone, but I had the thought and I had to get it out, and I just decided to start recording. So see, even I do it without a fancy microphone. So to continue, a little sidebar there. I've heard people say this saying before, that nothing magical happens on January 1st. And I truly believe that. My podcast co-host and I decided a long time ago that our start of the year was actually in July and not in January, just because it seems that we kind of fall into January. I don't mean that as a pun, but you do kind of stumble like out of the holiday season into January. And it's like all of a sudden you have to plan your year and set big goals and, increase your revenue and all of these things. And it can feel very forced, and it can also feel very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not correct. Like the things that you put down on paper might not be what you really needed to put down because you were just trying to get something down because it was January 1st. And this is why I really don't want to wait until the start of the year to work on the things that I want to work on. Literally, my dog keeps rolling over on the hardwood floor as I'm trying to record this. So in summary, I want you to figure out what is something that you are putting off till next year. And I want you to start breaking it down and figure out what you can start attacking before the end of the year. I myself am going to be coming out with a few new things. Hopefully one of those new things will be next week. It's going to be a challenge. Be on the lookout for that. And then I will also have a course coming out this month for the DIYer podcast launcher. So yeah, lots of fun, amazing things going on. And thank you so much for your support. We will have a few more episodes before I wrap up season 1. Hope you have a great day.
Before you go, please head to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. I would love to hear from you. And to learn more about me and follow along my journey, head to www.carolinecreates.com. There you can also listen to episodes, watch YouTube videos, and find out more about my podcasting services. Thanks so much. Have a great day.